Hi, everyone. I'd like to thank everybody for stopping in either in the classroom or in here tonight. Just finished up a few minutes ago. So I said I'd post a video just trying to explain things for people that couldn't make it. Going to go through a little spiel of what it is, go through the packet, and then I'll do my best to answer some of the questions that I've had pretty frequently tonight. So hopefully you've seen our packet. It's quite long. It starts with some brainstorming. That's what we've been working on the last couple days. From our brainstorming, we'll kind of look and see if there's any trends to then pick 3 ideas to start to develop into a project. Those 3 ideas are going to be just a little bit of research so they know what they're doing a little bit, but really not spending more than 15-20 minutes on each topic just to give them an idea of materials and things like that. But not a whole lot of time. From those 3 ideas, they'll write one proposal to me. They'll present it to me and say, this is what I want to do my project on. This is what I'm curious about. And this is what my goal is, what I'm trying to do. If I approve it, then you'll be getting a letter saying these are the materials that your child's going to need to complete their Genius Hour project. Will you provide them? If you approve it, because some of the things hopefully you have, but not everybody's materials are different. So if you approve it, then they can go ahead and start their project. If I don't approve it, or if you say like, look, I'm not buying you a new computer or like a rocket, I don't know, something crazy, I probably wouldn't approve that anyway. But then we'll start back and look at one of the other 2 ideas. I would say most of this is going to be done in school, the project part and research part. If there's parts like I've had students solder, that can't be done in our classroom, so we'll figure that out depending on the project. But then what they'll be working on is building, doing, creating something. And I'll go through a list of ideas in a little bit. Whatever they want to do, they're going to work on that and follow a plan. So in their packet, they'll have what I learned today, what I'm doing next time. And we'll basically be doing that about an hour each week, 3 times a week for 20 minutes. So it's going to take a bit of time if they're only working on it here in class, just because they're only working on it for about an hour a week. If they want to work on it at home, they can. I will have a box for each child that's about 12 by 12 by 4 that they can put their stuff in and carry back and forth. I will have schedules. We're probably going to work on it Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Just depends on the week. So they'll be able to know when they need their materials and things, and they can work on it that way too, bringing it back and forth. So then there's research. Research can be done online in books, people, whatever resources you want to use. Sorry, my dog is crying right at my leg. Any resources that they use, they are supposed to keep track of. This can be done 2 ways. In the packet, of course, and then they can also create a Google Doc where they can post links, they can put pictures, they can write down notes, anything like that, and kind of keep track of everything right there in one place. Then after the whole project's finished and they're happy with it, they'll present on it. They'll have to do a reflection where what they learned, what they liked, what they would change, what they really struggled with. And then from that, they will write a paper. That paper, I gave them about 3 pages. I don't expect it to be 3 pages, but definitely at least 1, answering those questions and then maybe taking us through the process that they went through. They will also be presenting it to the class. That paper will guide them, their presentation, and for that, the possibilities are endless. If they want to create like a slideshow, if they want to just put pictures up and talk about them, if they want to make a video to do their presentation, those possibilities, there's tons and tons out there. And the rubric, it does say they have to use some type of multimedia, but that can be as simple as pictures, or even if they build something, it could be their display, just so they're not sitting up there and talking, and the kids need some type of visual that are listening so they know what's going on. So that brings us to the rubric. It's worth 40 points, 20 for the presentation, 20 for actually working. They'll get more points just throughout the weeks for working on it. Are they working hard? Kind of like class participation. As they finish, those scores will go into the grade that they're working on. So if they're working on science or if they're working on social studies, Genius Hour, just kind of depends. But there's no limit to how many they can do a marking period or throughout the year. I'm kind of picturing getting 1, maybe 2 done a marking period. So that will, if they don't finish 1 in a marking period, that's okay too. It's not going to hurt them. They just won't have a score for that. It'll be a 0 out of 0. So after the rubric, there's just a list of the standards that we cover in science, since most of them seem to be interested in doing a Science Genius Hour. I think that's a little bit easier to think of ideas for and a little bit easier to build. So, but they're more than welcome to do it in other topics as well. Almost anything relates to science and social studies. So the rubrics, if you want to go through it with them, kind of brainstorm. If they're having trouble coming up with ideas, you can research like Genius Hour ideas, or even it's basically like a science fair that we're doing in our classroom. So you can look up science fair ideas too. I'm going to try to just show you a Genius Hour project that a high school class did. And they worked as a big group on a group of, I think, 3 when I found this article. Hold on a second. So sorry about that. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit, but this is obviously a high school class, and they were working on this with several students, but they made a catapult, and this was the video that I used in class out of just basic materials. And please don't build anything this big. I'm going to have 70 of them in my room, so I'm thinking much, much smaller than this. But they built it, and then they tested it out. And then that was their way of presenting it. They just recorded them testing it. But one of the things that I wanted to point out was, so this was their first shot, and then they modified it to make it work better. They were just kind of playing, and it turned into that experimenting and working on the project. So I thought that was neat. So they had to understand the science behind it, and that's where all the research comes in. The video that I posted earlier tonight has a great graphic that is in the middle of the video that kind of starts with a question that they have, and that's where they should be at right about now, figuring out what question they want to solve. And it talks about they need to do research, and it shouldn't be a question that they can find the answer to just on one website. If they can find the answer to it and kind of figure it out on just one website, then I'll help them change their question a little bit so that they can have a project out of it instead of just following someone else's directions. And then, of course, the share part, and he talks about it should be more than just the classroom of the world. It depends. I'm just starting with our classroom. But if they make like a YouTube video or things like that, if you're comfortable with posting it, then we can post it to share it with everybody else. It's just a matter of what they end up doing to present. So then the questions that I've been getting a lot were, when is it due? There is no due date. The best I can tell you is last year we did this and we gave the students about 5 weeks. Some of them finished, some of them didn't. I would try to, and I'm going to try to guide them towards a project that takes about that time. In a 5-week time, they'll get about 5 hours in my classroom to work on it. I'm hoping they can bring it home and maybe work on it here and there, depending on what it is, or even work in their own time on their research and then just build it in class if they're building something. But I would say 5 weeks is a good goal. If it doesn't happen in 5 weeks and it takes 9, 10, that's fine. Everybody's project's going to be a little bit different. So it just kind of depends on that. Other questions that I've been getting are things like, does it have to meet any specific standards, or do we have to like highlight what standards we're covering before we pick the project? I will look at that. I would say most things relate to something that we cover in school. If not, we're covering standards for writing and reading and definitely design. So we're covering a lot of standards, even if they're not anything specific. It's more so getting them interested in something that they want to learn about, and hopefully that carries over into other subjects. Other questions that I have received were, how are we going to bring it home and things like that. If it's big, I'm hoping it's, like I said, I hope it's not too big, but if it is, we'll figure that out. But most of the things that they should be transporting back and forth should fit in the backpack, or like I said, that box, so they could carry that home if need be. If you have any other questions, I'd be more than glad to answer them. I am starting to get a little bit long on this, so I'm going to cut it short. I hope I've cleared some things up. I hope I've answered some questions. Feel free to email me or message me on here if you have any others, and have a nice night.